They say you shouldn't spy on family. But what if they're the ones doing the unthinkable behind your back?
Hi.
My name is Eden Clark. I'm 38, married, and for the last year, I've been the full-time caretaker for my husband's mother, Lorraine, a once feisty, now paralyzed woman who can't speak, can't walk, and spends most days staring out the window with eyes that see everything. We moved into her apartment after the stroke. My husband, Tyler, said it would only be for a few months. That was 14 months ago. At first, it was manageable. She blinked once for yes, twice for no. We set routines.
But slowly something changed.
She'd flinch at certain sounds. Her eyes would panic when Tyler entered the room. And once, just once, I saw her crying silently after he whispered something I didn't hear. So I installed hidden cameras. 5 of them. He had no idea. That night, after Tyler left for drinks with friends, I sat down with my laptop and watched. And what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Not just the words he said to her. Not just how he said them. It was what he did when he thought no one would ever know. I nearly threw his clothes out the window that night. Nearly changed the locks. But instead I waited. And the next morning, when I stepped into the hallway, our neighbor stared at me with haunted eyes and whispered, "My God, so that's why she screamed on Tuesdays." I replayed the footage 3 times. Each time I caught something new. Lorraine, propped upright in her chair. Her hands curled in that same frozen position. She couldn't move, couldn't fight, couldn't scream. But Tyler, he could. The first time it was verbal. He leaned in close, whispered something with a smile. I turned up the volume. "You should have stayed dead, you old witch." She blinked once. Then again. Her lip trembled. The next clip was worse. He was holding a plate, the one I'd prepped for her lunch. He dumped it in the trash while staring at her, then took out his phone and started scrolling. "Guess you're fasting today, huh?" She blinked twice. Her eyes were begging.
No?
"Well, too bad. Blink harder." And then he laughed. I paused the footage. My hands were trembling. I knew Tyler had been stressed, long work hours, financial strain, but nothing justified this. Nothing explained how the man I married could mock a paralyzed woman behind closed doors while kissing her forehead in front of me. I thought of every strange bruise, every silent tear, every time Lorraine avoided eye contact when I asked, "You okay?" And then I remembered something else, something I had brushed off months ago. Tuesdays. She always cried more on Tuesdays. I checked the timestamps. Every clip of his cruelty, every one of his visits. All Tuesdays. The next one was tomorrow. And this time, I'd be waiting.
I didn't sleep that night.
I sat beside Lorraine's bed, holding her hand gently while she stared at the ceiling. She couldn't ask what I knew, but her eyes told me. She already knew I'd seen it. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. A single tear slid down her cheek. At 6:42 a.m., Tyler texted me. "Meeting ran late.
Gonna sleep in.
Can you handle breakfast?" Translation: he wouldn't be here for hours.
Good.
I used the time wisely. Transferred all the clips to a private drive. Backed up everything to the cloud. Created folders. One marked verbal abuse. Another marked neglect. And the third, intentional harm. Because in the third clip, Tyler had pinched the catheter tubing. Lorraine had winced. Then her eyes fluttered. Pain, sudden and sharp. He just stood there,
Smirking.
When Tyler finally stumbled in around 10:30 a.m., he kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal. I fought every urge to shove him down the stairs. Instead, I poured him coffee. "Tuesday," I smiled. "You staying home today?" "Nah, quick gym run. Then I'll stop by Mom's room for a bit." There it was. His ritual. Same as always. But today, the cameras weren't the only ones watching. I installed a live feed to my phone. Noise alerts. Motion triggers. And the moment he stepped inside her room, I stepped onto the balcony where the neighbor sat reading her paper. She looked up. "You're not going in?" "Not yet," I said. "I want to hear what he says when he thinks I'm gone." At 11:06 a.m., my phone buzzed. Live audio triggered. Bedroom camera. I slipped on my earbuds and tapped into the feed. The sound came in instantly. Tyler's voice, low, sarcastic, sickeningly sweet. "Hi, Mom. Miss me?" "Bet you do. Bet you loved starving yesterday." Silence. Then the sound of something being moved, probably her wheelchair. "You always said I'd never be a man, that I'd never be strong enough. Funny how strong I feel now when you can't do anything but blink." I pressed my hand to my mouth. The bile rose instantly. Then he chuckled. "Want to know what I did with your necklace? The one you told Eden to keep safe." My blood ran cold. That necklace had belonged to Lorraine's mother. She'd begged me to hide it, said Tyler would take it. I thought she was being paranoid. Pawned it. Couple $100. Took Eden out for steak. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the balcony tile. "Your face," he laughed. "I wish you could see it. All twisted. I wonder if it hurts." "Does it hurt?" I didn't wait another second. I stormed through the apartment, heart pounding, breath shallow. By the time I reached the bedroom door, my hands were fists. I flung it open. And for the first time, Tyler turned and saw me standing there. Not with questions. Not with confusion. But with proof. "What the hell?" he started. "Keep talking," I said. "You're being recorded live." He stared at me like I'd pulled a knife from behind my back. "What are you talking about?" "The camera behind the curtain. The mic under the shelf. And this." I held up my phone, where the live feed blinked red, still streaming. "Say hi to the cloud." He lunged. For the phone. For me. I stepped back fast. "You installed cameras? In my mother's room?" "Your mother begged with her eyes every Tuesday, Tyler." That was her version of a 911 call. His jaw flexed, his hands balled into fists. "You're insane. You're done." I turned the volume up. His voice echoed through the room. "I wish you could see it. All twisted. I wonder if it hurts." Lorraine's eyes blinked once. Then once again. Hard. Rapid. Like she was clapping with her soul. And for the first time, Tyler looked at her with something like fear. You believe her over me?" he snapped. "I don't need to believe anything," I said. "I watched you. The world is about to." His mouth opened, closed, then twisted. "You want to blow up our lives over a couple stupid videos? You tortured a defenseless woman. You didn't blow up your life, Tyler. You erased it." I walked to Lorraine, kissed her forehead. "I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner." She blinked slowly. One long breath. Relief. And that's when Tyler made his second mistake. He raised his voice, loud enough for the neighbor to hear. "There are some people who don't know when they've already lost." Tyler took 2 steps toward me, chest puffed, voice booming through the hallway. "You think you're going to ruin me over this? You think people will believe a vegetable and a wife with issues?" That last word, issues, hit harder than a slap. Because for months, he'd gaslit me, made me question myself, my memory, my instincts. He was a master at twisting guilt into silence. But not today. I didn't flinch. Instead, I opened the door. Our neighbor, Mrs. Adler, stood in the hall, phone in hand, recording every second. "I've heard enough," she said softly. "I heard it last week too. And the week before that." Tyler paled. I turned to him. "You raised your voice. That was mistake number 2. You're going to regret this," he hissed. "No," I said, walking past him. "You're going to understand it." Within the hour, the footage was in the hands of Adult Protective Services, our building's management, and 2 advocacy lawyers who had been waiting for a case like this. The first to arrive wasn't the police. It was a nurse advocate. She sat beside Lorraine, held her hand, and whispered, "You're safe now." Tyler tried to spin it. Said I'd edited the videos. Said I was bitter, unstable, vindictive. But Lorraine had her voice back, in the form of a USB drive. And Tyler's voice? It was about to become public record. By Thursday, Tyler's face was on 3 local news sites. Denver man under investigation after hidden camera footage shows alleged elder abuse. They blurred Lorraine's face, but not his. He tried to play the devoted son for reporters, stood on the curb and gave a teary-eyed statement about privacy violations and marital tension. But the audio clips did the talking for him, especially the one where he said, "You should have died, you old witch." That went viral. But what truly ended him wasn't the footage. It was the timeline. Because I'd documented everything. The missing medication logs. The bruises I once mistook for accidents. The necklace pawn ticket in his car. His texts to friends calling Lorraine a deadweight. It painted a pattern even a defense lawyer couldn't spin. Lorraine's new care advocate filed formal complaints. Her doctor backed up signs of long-term emotional trauma. And the state stepped in. By Monday, Tyler was escorted from the apartment by 2 plainclothes investigators. I didn't watch him leave. I was sitting beside Lorraine, holding her hand, reading her favorite poem, the one she used to recite in her stronger days. She blinked twice, smiled faintly, and then the quietest sound,
A sigh.
the kind you breathe when a weight finally lifts. In court, he pled not guilty, but the jury didn't need much. And me? I had one more thing to say before this ended. I stood in that courtroom, looked him dead in the eye, and said, she blinked for help. I became her voice. The verdict came in under 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Elder abuse, emotional cruelty, intentional neglect. The judge called it a case of silent torture. Tyler didn't look at me as they cuffed him, but he looked at Lorraine one last time. She blinked.
Once.
Then slowly turned her head away. She didn't want to see him anymore. She didn't have to. He was sentenced to 6 years. Maybe he'll get out early. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. Because when the world heard Lorraine's story, they saw their own mothers, grandmothers, silent victims in wheelchairs with no proof. Not anymore. My neighbor, Mrs. Adler, now runs a community hotline. We've gotten 5 reports from our building alone.
And Lorraine?
She's no longer just a patient. She's protected. She gets visits. She gets flowers. She gets seen. And when people meet her now, they don't see a fragile woman. They see a survivor. We moved to a better place. Sunlight filters through the windows. I read to her. We paint together. I learned her favorite songs. She blinks once for again. Sometimes twice, just to tease me. She may never speak again. But she will never be silenced again. And me? I now volunteer with elder rights organizations. I teach families how to listen without sound, how to see what's hidden. Because sometimes the loudest scream is the blink no one notices. And now, everyone notices. Everyone sees. Because justice doesn't always knock. Sometimes it watches.